So today's ad slot isn't sponsored. Instead, I want to tell you about a charity I work with who could really do with some extra help right now. I'd like you to contemplate for a moment about how you feel when you're really hungry, or if you have a child, how they behave when they're hungry. Terrible, right? Hunger affects everything: behavior, mood, concentration, ability to learn. A hungry person, and especially a hungry child, isn't anywhere near their best self. Magic Breakfast provides free, nutritious breakfasts to over 1,000 primary, secondary, and ASL special educational needs schools across the UK. Every school day, they offer breakfasts to up to 200,000 children. But it's also not just about the food. I've visited their schools, and their clubs also serve as a place for children to come together, get support from teachers, catch up on homework, relax with friends, even get their hair braided. How needed is this charity? Sadly, very, and more so than ever. According to government statistics, before COVID, around 1.7 million children in the UK were living with food insecurity, meaning that they're at risk of hunger in the morning. That number is now looking closer to 4 million. And of course, with the cost of living crisis, it's just rising. I volunteer with Magic Breakfast. I'm on their development board, and I know the money goes where it's needed to supporting children, as well as lobbying for policy change to encourage the government to step in. Magic Breakfast actually always say that their ultimate aim is to make themselves obsolete, to end child hunger for good. If you have the ability to support a hungry child, please do check them out. It's magicbreakfast.com. Thank you.
I'm a very independent person, but I have to say, if I didn't have the people around me that I do, I wouldn't be the person I am still. And I think most people would say that being alone is not a nice thing. So having my friends and family around me, whether they support me or not, well, they do, but whether they do or don't, having people around you and good people around you to kind of uplift you and just to kind of experience things with, that's kind of a priority just in life generally for me.
Welcome to Priorities, the podcast about the things in life that really matter. I'm your host, journalist and coach Lily Silverton, and each week, along with a roster of incredible guests, I'll be exploring how priorities inform and transform our lives, sharing mindset tips, strategies, tools, and inspiration to help you prioritise your own life. We'll be covering what we think is important and unimportant, what we'd like to work on a little more, and the moments that changed our priorities and lives forever. I hope you enjoy. My guest today is singer and radio presenter Victoria Jane. Victoria is the host of Future Soul, the weekly and only R&B soul show on BBC Radio 1, where she champions new music as well as showcasing lesser-known songs from more established artists. Having started her radio career during university, Victoria was working in a call centre when she got her big break from the BBC and was invited in to cover for DJ Target on Boxing Day. And from there, they gave her own show. As a musician herself, Victoria is also currently working on an EP, as well as performing live. Welcome, Victoria.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I am in Manchester and it's not raining, which is great because it always rains up here. But I'm happy to be on the pod, definitely.
I'm looking forward to speaking to you. So my first question is always, do you have some sort of morning routine?
Do you know what? I was setting up a Zoom with someone recently and they were like, no, this is my morning routine. And it got me thinking that I actually don't have a heavy morning routine. I kind of just tend to not go on my phone for the first half an hour. Obviously do the usual, brush my teeth, shower. Depending on what time I get up, I might eat, but I might just have a coffee or a tea. And yeah, try not to go on my phone in the first half an hour to an hour. And sometimes I kind of just have a bit of a quiet time. But it's hard sometimes because with my kind of schedule, it's all over the place. So I find it really hard to stick to a routine sometimes, if that makes sense.
Me too. And my schedule's not all over the place. So
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always ask morning routine, but there's also, I mean, some people have more something that they do in the evening to wind down. And also for some people, like routine really doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm a mum of 2 young kids. So for me, my routine is non-existent. So I quite like that. But I'm definitely not like playing anything out myself.
Yeah. God, I wish I could have a morning routine, but I just feel like my life is not supposed to have, a heavy morning routine. And also I feel like I try to do skincare in the mornings, but it's something I need to keep remembering to do. So
Quite
yeah.
like that. My life is just not meant to have a heavy morning routine.
Yeah,
I like that.
literally.
So, Victoria, tell me, what's one of your priorities?
I would say one of my priorities is to always be productive. Productivity has always been like a priority for me. And I feel like it's just been ingrained in me from like a very young age that productivity means, success, or at the very least, if you are productive, you're not gonna if you are productive, you're going to be on the way to doing something, like you're working towards something, or you're actively doing something. So I think for me, productivity has been like one of the key reasons why I'm so driven, and I've kind of got to where I am at now because of my priority being productivity. And so I'd have to say, yeah, being productive, and not in the sense of just like being active or doing an activity, but like being productive in the sense that I'm always working towards something. I'm always doing things to, achieve like kind of like a goal. So yeah, I would say that.
That's a great one. We've never had that on before.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
there you go. Tell me, is this, I think you said earlier that it was quite ingrained in you. Is that ingrained in you from your parents, from your upbringing?
You know what? I
Who
don't
you
know,
are?
because I feel like my parents have always been doing stuff to make make sure me and my siblings, were all right. But I was never like a rich child. Like I was never was probably like a working class child. Like I wouldn't have the best of things growing up. So I think it's just been kind of ingrained in me from what I didn't have, that I wanted to be, I wanted to have things and I wanted to not be like, I wanted the reverse of my childhood, really, in terms of like financial freedom and stuff, which I'm still not there. But because of that upbringing, it kind of was ingrained in me, like I need to keep doing things till I achieve what I want to achieve. And I've always felt that from a very young age. So yeah, in that sense, it kind of is. Yeah.
Did you, if you always felt it from a very young age, did you feel like the people around you, your friends around you, had the same drive?
Because I was born in London. Well, I was born in Hertfordshire, in Boreham Wood, and then I moved to Manchester in year six. And then I went to basically, well, kind of moved to Manchester in the start of high school. And so my friends chop and changed all the time. It's only till university that I kind of found like my the people who are my close friends now. So like I think my friends over time have just been, you know, not the people that have stuck around for me, but my close friends now are definitely all very driven. I would say like a lot of my friends now are very similar to me in like productivity. Like all my friends are constantly doing things, and most of my friends are in the creative space as well. So I'd say they are similar to me in that way. I think I just have quite a um where I'm a bit different to them. It's just the fact that I like constantly am thinking about things I need to do, whereas most of my friends will just switch off sometimes. But I am constantly like, I'm one of those who will be on the emails when they're out. Like I'm just constantly trying to like improve and do things that will help me. Yeah.
How do you switch off then?
I don't know, it's hard to switch off, isn't it? Like I do find it hard because the cost of living is rising. Like, I want to try and be and achieve better. So I always have this mindset of like, I need to be doing things, otherwise like I'm wasting time. I think my dad's always ingrained into me like, you need to be doing this, or why are you not doing that? Da, 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 da. So like, I've always found it hard to switch off because of that. Obviously, my friends are all in the creative space, so I will go to like certain things to support them, like whether it's like one of my friends DJing or an event or something. So I do kind of try and switch off at those things because I'm just there to kind of like vibe and have fun. But then again, I find myself just like networking, so it's quite hard. I think the easiest way is when I'm around family, because I'm kind of forced to switch off because my mum doesn't like me going on my phone, or so I think it is hard to switch off being a creative, but it's so important to be able to do so.
Are there any other things that you've tried to switch off?
Yeah, just things like going to the cinemas and your activities. When I'm in the studio, like as myself as a singer, as an artist, I find it easiest to switch off. But I don't go to the studio all the time, so I think that's probably my main outlet of switching off, is the studio.
When you said earlier that you're always working towards a goal,
yeah,
what are some of the recent ones that you've been working towards?
The first one I've been trying to work towards for the past like 3 years is putting out new music, like a project and a string of singles leading towards like a EP that kind of is like a debut EP, like me re-establishing myself, because I've got music out, but it's old to me. It's like I've discovered my new sound and the music that I'm really comfortable with, and the music that brings me the most joy is what I've been making over the past couple of years. So I've just been kind of gearing up to try and release this new music, but it's been quite hard. So that is definitely one of my main focuses. One of the things that's been my main focuses recently. I would also say another thing that's been heavy at the top is just having the balance. Balance is so hard to achieve, and I speak to people all the time about like balancing things. And so I'm constantly just trying to remind myself like to balance things and kind of have that as a goal in the back of my mind, like to be able to balance things but grow at the same time. So there are two things I would say that come into my mind.
Like that balance thing is conflicts with the constant productivity.
Exactly. Like a weighing scale kind of.
So what would balance look like to you?
I think for me to have a good balance right now, I'd want to get more work opportunities, but also be able to spend more time with family. I find I'm the friend that's always checking in on everyone. Like, I feel like I'm always doing something. I'm always trying to better people, and so I'm always trying to do something. So balance would also be taking a step back from some of the things that I'm always trying to do. But yeah, definitely spending more time with family. I think also taking more time out of music and radio and maybe like traveling and having that time to kind of switch off as well. Yeah, but it's obviously quite hard to do those things, even though they seem very easy to do.
It's often the simple stuff that's the hardest.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you're always the one that's calling people and checking in, and kind of what I'm hearing you say is that you're very giving.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Description. So what are some of I always ask, like, what do you want to prioritize more? So maybe we can chat about this a little bit, because it's always helpful for people. So if you wanted to prioritize maybe taking a bit more than giving, or finding more balance there, what would the steps be for you? Hey, if you're enjoying the themes in this podcast and want to delve a bit deeper into prioritizing your own life, come on over to my Substack, Prioritize This, where I release weekly essays, voice memos, and coaching questions on priorities, habits, values, and generally the stuff that makes for a better life. Search Prioritize This on the Substack website or app.
That was kind of hard, because I don't know how I would prioritize taking if things are not being offered. Like, so that's a kind of hard one. And I feel like I am a giving person, and I will always be a giving person. It's just in my nature. I've always wanted to help people and kind of see people win. And that's initially like what drew me to radio, because being an artist myself, I knew and I saw how hard it was to, get your music played. And I just loved hearing and talking about music. So being able to give people platform to have their music heard really kind of drew me to radio initially, and it's part of my giving nature, and I think I'll always be giving. So it's just more of a thing where I am not quite sure how to do this, actually, what you're asking me. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to think about, really, for me.
I'm asking because I think a lot of the listeners of this podcast will share that feeling.
Yeah, it's quite hard because, like, if you're someone who always wants to help other people, but people are not necessarily helping you, like, if you just stop helping them, then it's not really going to change anything. So I just will always do me, like, and then whatever comes will comes to me, I think, yeah, unless someone has a better answer to that question.
I mean, yeah, I think being a giving person is a brilliant thing. And you definitely want to keep being you and having that amazing side of you shining through.
Yeah.
It's just balancing that with making sure that you have enough resources for yourself to get on with all the big stuff you want to do.
Yeah, true.
I always think there's maybe something, like, for me anyway, for sure, around boundaries. So that if I feel like I'm overgiving, it's me that needs to put those boundaries in, so that I then also don't resent giving too much.
Yeah, true. It's very hard to set boundaries though, but I guess it's just like trial and error.
And like putting it at the forefront, I guess.
Yeah.
Rather. Yeah. Any listeners got any good ideas, then email me. And
yeah, definitely.
Internal problems. I've spoken about this on the podcast before as well, that balance is like a bit of a myth, this idea that we can have a perfect balance. Because, as you said, like, sometimes you're just going to be really, really productive and working really strongly towards a goal or intention. And at other times you might have more downtime. So I think it's, with balance, mostly about like thinking about it seasonally rather than a day-to-day balance. It's more like, oh, I'm working really hard at the moment, but I can see later in the year there's going to be this time where there's going to be more downtime for me.
Yeah, 100%. Like, over winter is normally when that exists. But I feel like a lot of people, a lot of people question balance. Oh, how do I manage work and family life? And, but the thing is, people always try and shift things or try and balance things, but everything really, like, coexists together. So, your family and your work, it's all one. And if you take family out of the equation and put it over there for a little less time, it's still in the same kind of bubble of what you're doing. So it's very hard to separate things because everything is linked at the same time. Yeah, there's a lot of like YouTube videos on balance that I've watched, but it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic for sure.
What else is a priority to you?
I would say, I was thinking about this because priorities can really be many things, but I think faith is definitely one of my biggest priorities, because faith has been like in my relationship with God as a Christian. It's been one of like the main things that's kind of got me through most of my life, I think.
Have you always had faith?
Yeah, well, I was brought up in the church. My mum and dad are both baptized. And so me, my brother and sister were always brought up in the church, even from like an early age, from like when we lived in London. So all that I'll remember the church till my earliest like memories. So I've always been around, surrounded by people who are Christians and are, you know, religious, and that's been ingrained in me from like a very young age. I would say like it's only since I became I'd say like maybe my teenage years is when I started to have more of a relationship with God and be more religious. And it's only when I was like entering like, I'd say maybe uni, that I started to understand it a bit more.
How does it support you? I've never had anyone say faith before either. Look,
Yeah, interesting. I am different.
Have people talk about their faith before, or about their spirituality, but I've never had anyone say it. So
yeah, I feel like having that relationship with faith and just kind of that trust with God. You know, I think religion is a huge minefield. Like there's so much to kind of delve into, but with like Christianity and being a Christian, and kind of just that belief in God and that trust in God, it's really got me through like a lot of hard times. And there's been a lot of moments where I have like questioned my religion or questioned my belief, and then things have happened which just makes me realize that, you know, oh, like this is actually real, like there is like a God. Like, so I think those times that have been hard and those times that have been good, every single time has been for a reason. And I really believe that that my relationship with faith it has been kind of like the rock, you know, that like relationship with also like prayer and talking to God. And I feel like that's been the anchor for, you know, my getting through like education and getting through hard times, and just everything comes back to faith for me all the time. Everything I do, I always feel like I've done through faith. So yeah.
Is yours a musical church?
What do you mean? Like, is there like songs and stuff? Like,
yeah, like some churches are very, very musical.
To be fair, I don't think a lot of the time I took the sermons in properly because I was younger and I just didn't understand. But I think my favourite part was like the singing and the worship, because everyone just comes together and it's just so nice. And I remember when lockdown started, and that was like the first time in ages that I hadn't been to church, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? But then they did it online, so yeah. But yeah, no, singing and the worship is like my favourite part.
What else is a priority to you?
I would say friends and family are maybe the third priority. Because I was trying to think, what would other people say? And I was like, I'm not going to listen to the other podcast episodes because I don't want to copy anyone. So let me just try and come up with something. But yeah, I think friends and family, because sometimes like I'm a very independent person, but I have to say, like, if I didn't have the people around me that I do, I wouldn't be the person I am still. And I think most people would say that like being alone is not a nice thing. So having my friends and family around me, whether they support me or not, like, well, they do, but whether they do or don't, having people around you and good people around you to kind of uplift you and just to kind of experience things with, you know, that's kind of a priority just in life generally for me.
What about music? How is music a priority to you?
Oh yeah, I should have said music. That was obviously the other one. Yeah, I think music is like, I didn't even think of music because it is just the thing that is a constant in my life, so it didn't even cross my mind. But yeah, I think I'll always have a love for music, and I had a love for music from an early age. I always knew that I just loved music and I wanted to be in and around and just be in music and just make music. I was always singing from a young age and just like trying to play instruments and stuff. But yeah, I think to me, like, I listen to music every day, and music is something that every single person has in their life. Like every single person listens to music. But for me, music is a constant because I can't like go a day without listening to music. And I think music has got me through so many like difficult times, or music is also an outlet for me because I'm an artist. So music is just a very, very big thing in my life personally.
Is it the worst question ever to ask you, like, what your favourite song might be?
That's a really hard question. I can tell you who my favourite artist is now.
Yeah?
Children of Zeus from Manchester. So I don't know if you know them.
I don't.
But they are legendary. So if you don't know Children of Zeus, 2 guys from Manchester who make soul music that is just out of this world. One guy sings, the other guy raps. Yeah, they're insane. And when I tell people Children of Zeus are my favourite artists, people are shocked because obviously they're quite new, they're upcoming. Well, they've been making music for quite a few years now, but they're new in the sense that they're not like old school. They are like someone who's still on the come up. But they are, to me, they make timeless music that everyone can listen to and enjoy. So yeah, Children of Zeus.
Children of Zeus. Okay. So you got your show on Radio 1, Future Soul.
Yeah.
How did you get your show? How did you get into that?
That is such a long story. I will try and make it short. So then I did broadcast journalism at uni, because when I was researching, that's the one that was coming up for radio. So I did that, realised it was nothing to do with radio. It was just like all to do with like news and reporting. And I was really annoyed, to be fair, but I was like, oh, might as well just do it, because to like please my parents or whatever. And so I started student radio though in university. Then I ended up going to community radio and joined a station in Manchester called Unity Radio. And on Unity Radio is where I kind of met people in the Manchester music scene. I connected with producers and artists. And, you know, it was at the time where most people were on the come up or just starting their careers in music. And like people at H was just starting, Just Banco. There's a lot of rappers. IMDDB, she was just starting, or these people were just on the come up. So I was starting to get involved in the Manchester music scene around this time, and I realised then, like, oh, I can actually do music. My first time in a studio session was with this guy called Lytech and 24K. And they basically Lytech told me, like, you can just go on YouTube and learn how to produce. So I started trying to learn how to produce my own music. And so I started doing music, but then also was still at Unity Radio. And I was at Unity Radio up until like nearly 2 years ago, when I found out about the BBC's Christmas Presenters competition. And so they have this competition where you can submit a show reel and have the chance to basically take over one of the shows on BBC over Christmas. And I ended up covering DJ Target on BBC Radio 1 and 1 Extra on Boxing Day. So that is how I kind of got my in. But my show came about because after that, I went back to working in a call centre, doing sales. And then the guy from Radio 1 called me and he was kind of like, you know, what do you actually really want to do? Just kind of sussing me out. And I said, like, there's no space for R&B music on Radio 1. So I submitted a demo show to him for that. And then like 6 months later, they asked me to be the host of this new show. So that's kind of it all compressed into one little bit, really.
Amazing. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's been a journey, but it's only been like a few years, but yeah.
You're still very young.
Yeah, I know. People tell me this all the time, but I think I knew I always wanted to do that. And when you know exactly what you want to do, it's you've got to just work at it and you'll get to where you want to be. I think that's why I've got to where I am at such a young age, because I knew that I wanted to be a presenter, and I initially always wanted to be on 1 Extra, so I was very surprised that this happened, but it happened. So I think that's why I'm not where I am with music though, because as an artist you don't know how to get there, so it's not as straightforward as, you know, being a presenter.
What's something that you couldn't care less about? What's not a priority?
Something that I used to really care about, that I still do, what I really just couldn't really care less, is what people think of me. Because I used to really be such a shy person. Like, I used to really be so self-conscious, especially as a kid growing up with eczema. I used to be so, honestly, the opposite of what I am now. But I just switched one day and I was just like, you know what? I honestly don't care. What is going to change unless someone's actually being physical, or it's coming from someone that really matters? I really don't care. So I think people's perception of me, I am honestly not bothered. Like, if someone comments or something bad, I'll just delete it. I just really am not bothered anymore. Yeah, that's, I think, one of the things that comes to my head.
That's a really good thing. I think people struggle with that for their entire lives.
Yeah, I think obviously there's going to be the odd thing now and again, but I have that perception now where I really just don't care. Yeah.
Good. That's a really good thing. Victoria, have your priorities ever shifted in an instant? Has your life ever changed?
Don't really know how to answer it. Like, I was thinking of this and I literally could not find an answer in my head, and I knew the question was going to come. But I was just like, because I don't think I've ever had anything drastic happen to me. I've always thought very rationally, and I'm always like, I'll get to that bridge when it comes to it kind of approach to things. I'm fortunate enough to, like I said, have that relationship with faith. So I think when things do happen, I just kind of go to faith and just pray about it. So I don't think anything has really shifted my perspective or priorities that much, where I've not been I think I've always been sort of the same. I've had instances where I've had in the past, when I was younger and a bit more naive, falling out with friends in a bad way, which really made me think differently about people. When I started getting involved in the industry, that really shifted my perspective of things, and how everything really seems dreamy in the industry, in the inside, but really it's all a load of rubbish. People are really getting involved in the industry, getting into the actual industry will really open your eyes to how people are and how everything is cogs going round in the industry. So I think maybe that, to be fair, is probably the biggest eye-opener and perspective shift. It made me always it made me think that, just to take things with a pinch of salt, because people can chat so much rubbish, literally. So maybe that, I think, could go with that.
That's a good one. How have you navigated the industry then? Just taking everything with a pinch?
I'm trying my best. When I started Radio 1, it's kind of when I first got my foot in the industry, and I was with Insanity Management up until this year. And so that they dealt with a lot of things for me, but at the same time, I was obviously dealing with a lot of things on my own. So I just try to have a steady head and not get too excited about things, because people, when you're excited and hype about certain situations or opportunities, then you can often miss things. I've realized. So you just have to have another manager's head on yourself, I think, and look at things really actually overthink certain things. That's what I've learned to do. Yeah.
You should overthink, or you shouldn't overthink?
No, I really overthink some things, because the industry is so mad. There's been certain situations where I've just been oh yeah, it's fine, but it's really not. I should have thought about that situation or that event or that contract properly, or So really, actually overthink certain things. Maybe overthink is not the right word, but have a look at from different angles. Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of people not in the music industry as well can relate to that, for sure. We often act quite quickly, or listen to what someone says and then take them for their word and go with it.
Yeah.
question things very much, or, you know, take a step back and breathe for a minute.
Yeah, I think it's also like in the industry, everyone wants to be someone. So it's so hard to find like genuine people who actually want to like work with you as well, or who are just genuinely doing what they're doing. So you just kind of have to look at people like a bit, like obviously not look at them like that, but like kind of just sum them up, not sum them up, size them up a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Size everyone up a bit.
Yeah.
All right, Victoria, is there anything you want to say before we finish? Anything you want to chat about?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. It's been nice. Yeah, I would also say that I have a few things coming up. My socials are _Victoria Jane, I think, on Instagram and Twitter. And if you search my name, hopefully it comes up on Spotify and your streaming services for my music. But my show, if you want to listen and discover new R&B and soul artists, is on Radio 1 every Sunday night. But you can listen back on BBC Sound. It's called Future Soul. And yeah, I'm actually performing in London at a venue called Hootenanny on the 25th of May and the 20th of August at Cloud X Festival in London. So I've got 2 shows coming up, and I have also got a few hosting gigs. So yeah, have a look on my socials for all of that.
All right, check it out. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A great day.
If you enjoyed this episode of Priorities, I'd really appreciate it if you could make it your priority today to hit subscribe and also rate and review, as this helps other people find it. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.